When you approach a potential, what is your strategy from the time that you shake hands and say hello to the time that you're starting to kind of work through your sales pitch?
Yep. So we have a very strict sales process. It's four steps. Okay. After the contact is made, it's
Welcome to Sunny Side Up Podcast. What's going on, dog?
what's going on, brother? How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. I'm up north. I heard you're up north, just having a good time.
Exactly. I love it.
So, business is on the menu today.
Yes.
And
Let's get into it.
the first question I have to start us off is, how do you build a relationship with a potential customer?
Yeah. So to just dive right in there are a couple of ways that I go about it. If it's somebody that I don't know, like if I was doing cold calls, for instance, and just reaching out to somebody random, most of the time, depending on, what you're selling or what you're going about, you're going to get met with a gatekeeper first, right? So you're never going to get connected with the person that you want to talk to right away. So that typically I go the innocent route, and I all my goal is and I this is a quote that I was given years ago, when dealing with sales in general, is people don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. Okay. So when I get met with a gatekeeper, my goal isn't to get through to the person that I want to talk to. My goal is to extract information and make the gatekeeper giggle. That's it. And then as soon as that happens and I get the information I want, I'll call back a second time. She won't remember. And if she does remember, or him or her, usually it's a female, office managers, admins, all that type of stuff. If they do remember, all they remember is that you made them laugh. And so it's far easier to get through to the person that you want to actually chat with. And then once I'm chatting with the person that I want to talk to, and that could, now at this phase, it could be somebody that I met at a networking event, or it could be somebody that I called cold and got through the gatekeeper and got through to them, or emailed them, or went through LinkedIn or whatever. Personally, and this is, and I joke around with your brother about this. This is super funny. I don't perceive myself to be a sales guy at all. I don't think that that's my skill set, but I am a marketer by trade. And so I'm extremely good at relationship building and getting people to know, like, and trust me. And then I'm also very passionate. And so when you combine those two things, it becomes, I could probably sell ice to an Eskimo. But I personally, like, that's not, what I enjoy doing. But when I'm in those types of situations, and when I am in a mode where I need to make some money and I've got to make some sales happen and things like that, my goal is to be valuable. I don't think about money at all. I don't think about how much money I'm going to make. I don't think about what that's going to do for me. I don't think about how much money I need. It really is just, hey, I know that there's something that I can do for you that's valuable. And ultimately, I'm not going to ask you for any money unless I've given you something that's worth the money that I'm going to ask for. So I take a very innocent approach after I'm in the door. Once I'm in the door, it's like, hey, like, there's nothing special here. I've got no real pitch. At the end of the day, I know that I have this, all these different things that I know can help you. But, let's go out and have a drink. Let's go out to lunch. Like, I don't take the sales approach with it. I'm not going in and like, here's my elevator pitch. Like, oh man, I've only got them for 60 seconds. It's more of like, hey, if it was a cold call, we have a script and we have things that we follow for those situations. But even then, it's more of just like, hey, specifically for what I'm selling right now, the marketing services and the software as a service. Once we get through the gatekeeper and we're talking to that first that decision maker, the DM, I start the conversation off by saying, hey, like, I noticed an error in your online presence. Are you guys interested in getting more leads and getting more business through the door, getting more appointments? Because if you are, I notice that there's something that you're not doing that you should be. And, if you are interested in it, great, and we can chat about it. But if you're not, that's perfectly fine. And we can just part ways. And then based on how they answer that, cool, and we can chat further. But I'm not going to sit there and like start pitching. I'm just going to say, hey, I noticed something. If you guys are trying to get more business, then this needs to be changed and this needs to be improved. If you're not, then that's fine. And then based on their answer to that, I can typically get further into the conversation. So I take a very innocent approach. I try and ask a lot of questions. People don't want to do business with people that they don't know care. And so I try to overly express and overly ask questions and understand their situation. That's something that a lot of salespeople don't do well in, is they get on the phone, they get in the emails, they get to the networking events, and they're there to talk about what they have to sell. I get on the phones, send the emails, go to the networking events, and I'm just trying to talk to people. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get to know them. I don't care at all about anything else. I have no agenda. I actually don't want to sell you anything because I feel that it's awkward. So like that, I think helps a lot when I'm in those situations. And then when I get to talking, naturally, the comfortable thing is for me to talk about what I'm great at. And so when I'm talking to them and I'm asking them questions and, we're talking about a roofing company, it's like, oh, cool. So like when you guys get a person that calls you guys, what happens? Oh, awesome. So like nothing happens and you have to like remember to call them back. Oh, cool. So like when you call them back, after they express that they're interested in buying a roof or getting their roof repaired, then what happens? And so I just start asking these questions about their processes. And ultimately, people love talking about themselves. You asked one
Mm-hmm.
question, I've been talking for like 6 minutes straight,
Yep.
right? So like ultimately, when you give somebody the opportunity to do that, all I'm doing is gathering information. Now I know what happens when a lead comes in. Now I know so now all the marketing stuff that I can talk about when we get to talking about me, I know all these different pain points that he doesn't even know are pain points yet. I was just identifying what happens in his process. He doesn't even know his process is subpar, right? So ultimately that's the approach that I take, is more curious, trying to learn, trying to understand. And then from there, when we get to talking about me, I can be very direct with what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, I provide a software that does this and this. And
Mm-hmm.
it actually fills the gap in that first part and that second part that you were just talking about. And then now it's just ironic that I'm the guy that has the solution to his problem that he didn't even know he had at the beginning of the conversation. So that's kind of the approach that I take, is more innocent and more caring, of like, I'm trying to learn more and understand more about you rather than tell you this is what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, you said gatekeeper, and that
Yes.
would be like a secretary, somebody between you and the potential customer, right?
Yes. And,
Okay.
and this is more, again, and we talked about this right before we hopped on. This is more like, your service-based businesses. A marketing agency could have an office manager and a receptionist that answers the phone. And so when you try and call the marketing agency, you're not going to get through to the employee you want to talk to right away. You're going to get the person that's at the front desk. And those are gatekeepers.
Okay. Just
Yep.
to clarify for the people that, I never heard that term before myself. So
Yeah. Yep.
make sure.
And yeah, so, and it's funny because, and I was talking to my sales guys about this last week. Gatekeepers, their goal is, when they detect what type of phone call it is, when they hear the words, their goal is to get you off the phone. That's why it's called a gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is the person in charge of letting people through the door or closing the door and making sure nobody gets in. And so when I make a cold call, which I don't do, and I would never ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself, but I do have people cold calling for me right now. Ultimately, the way that I say to start it is, again, more innocent. As soon as you say, uh, you know, hey, this is so and such roofing company. How can I help you? Hi, this is Andrew from Mindset Marketing. I actually was just emailing with, Jim, the guy that's in charge of marketing. Is he in right now? That sounds like a sales call. That sounds like telemarketing. Automatically, gatekeeper in their head, it triggers, nope, get this person out of here, right? Don't let them through no matter what. And it's just so ironic that every time you start a phone call that way, the owner's not in the office.
Mm-hmm.
They're not available right now. That, like, all the different reasons start coming up of why you can't talk to that person right now. So the way that I say to start the conversation, and this is, again, selling marketing services, ring, ring. Hi, this is, so and such roofing company. Hey, I was actually just looking on your website and I'm really confused because I can't find it. Who's in charge of marketing?
There you
And
go.
now it sounds like I'm looking for information. It doesn't sound like I'm calling to talk to somebody. And now, boom, first name. Awesome. Do they have an email address where I could reach out to them directly? Because I had a question and I'm just like confused. I'm giving zero info, right? And so you're just kind of holding back because the gatekeeper doesn't know why you're calling when you call. Salespeople get in their own head and they're like, well, they know why I'm calling, so I have to let them know this is Andrew from Mindset Marketing and I was talking to this person and I need to get through to them. And it's like, no, the gatekeeper has no freaking clue why you're calling. You can say whatever you want. And so at the end of the day, I don't want to give off that this is a telemarketing call. And then once I get the information that I need, what I'll do is I'll call back the next day or that afternoon because they'll forget about the phone call by that point. And I'll be like, hey, is Jim available? And now I just ask for Jim right away. And they have no idea. Again, like I'm just here to talk to Jim. So that's more the approach that I take with this, with the gatekeepers is they don't know. They're answering calls all day long. So they're just listening. And as soon as they hear telemarketing stuff, their brain compartmentalizes the call and it doesn't matter what you say after that. As soon as they hear telemarketing, boom, you're out the door no matter what. 10 times out of 10. As soon as they hear concerned potential customer, their goal is to help you. So,
yep.
Yeah.
I always think about it like a table. So I would rather be sitting on the same side of the table talking with a potential customer than like a 1v1, who's gonna sell, who's gonna buy. That's very high pressure. And
Yes.
so like when you're sitting across the table from somebody rather than just relaxing with your friend, it's calm. You're not pressuring somebody into a sale. I mean, how many times are you going to get a sale that way compared to like the 1v1 high stakes winner takes all kind of thing?
Well, and I'm telling you, the people that perform in sales are the ones that build relationships. You're only going to get, I'm looking at stats right now, 2% of sales are made on the first contact. Hard sales doesn't work. You have to build a relationship. You have to. So
I was watching, do you know who Oliver Anthony is? He's a musician. He's got a big beard. He made that song, Richmond, North of Richmond.
Yep.
So he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about, because he used to be a salesman, I think in the construction industry.
Gotcha.
And so he was saying he enjoyed his job somewhat. So he really enjoyed learning the people. And I say learning specifically because he was learning about his customers. He was learning, oh, this is Jim. He's got 2 kids. He's got a wife. He's got a dog. He's got a boat. Like this is what he likes to do.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And then he'll start selling. And then he'll start talking about business.
Yes.
And that was the part that he liked. He said all this stuff like the paperwork and meeting with the bosses and all that was, he didn't like that. I mean,
that's the job. That's the job part.
It's the job. But the part that he really enjoyed and what really made him successful as a salesman was his personality of not coming to a job site. Where's the buyer? I'm going to make a deal. No, it was just, how's Jim doing? How's his kids doing? And then,
Right,
you know,
exactly. Hey, his kid's birthday was last week. What'd you guys do? And it's like when you know those types of things, it just sets you apart. Like people don't know how much you care until they know how much you care. And when you're
mhm.
talking about their kid's birthday, like I have a client and his kid is entering his senior year. He's a football player. He plays quarterback, and he got recruited to a different high school. Okay, went through all their camps, went through everything. Again, senior year quarterback got recruited like to come transfer to this school. 3 days before game number one, coach approaches him and says, "Hey, we're going to start our sophomore to get him some game time experience at varsity level." So this kid just
Hmm.
transferred from the school where he was guaranteed to start and got benched. And then now the future projecting, he's going to get benched every single week because his sophomore is going to play. So my client, the dad in this situation, calls me and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm moving to Florida." And I was like, wow. And we had a whole conversation about how unique that is for a dad to care that much about his kids. And I straight up told him, and we were just talking about like father son relationships and all that type of stuff. But that's the thing is like, he didn't have to tell me any of the stuff that's going on in his kid's life. And I didn't have to sit there and listen to that conversation. But we talked for like 45 minutes about his kid and how much he wants to play football and how he's going to go off and do all these different things to get him to the point where he can play every single week so the coaches that want to see him can see him play. And those are the types of things that, like, if you're having those types of conversations, that's not a conversation that a businessman has with his client. That's the type
Mhm.
of conversation that a friend has with his friend. So,
Yep, exactly.
yeah.
So, when you approach a potential, what is your strategy from the time that you shake hands and say hello to the time that you're starting to kind of work through your sales pitch?
Yep. So we have a very strict sales process. It's 4 steps. Okay. After the contact is made, it's information gathering, demonstration / appointment, negotiating, close the deal. That's it. That's all we do. So usually by the time we've made that first contact, we're able to ask a couple of questions, but I'll do an introduction phone call that's usually 15 to 30 minutes. Okay. From there, we're setting an appointment. That appointment is usually 30 minutes to an hour. That's our longer form conversation. I have a 4-slide presentation that talks about my company and all that type of stuff, case studies and brands we've worked with and all that, just to look impressive and show them we're legit. And then from there, we present a plan at the end of that demonstration or at the end of that appointment. And based on how much they like that plan, we enter the negotiations phase. If they don't like it, then we change it. If they do like it, then we're talking about price. And if they like the price or they don't like the price, so we're negotiating. And then after that, we close down the deal. So that's our 4-step process. It's technically 7 when you include the lead generation aspect. But once we make that contact and we're talking to the person, 4
Hmm.
steps, that's it. And if we can just run through those 4 every single time, and we don't deter from that, like, the negotiations phase doesn't have to be meetings. We don't have to have 3 meetings. We could send a couple of emails and do 2 phone calls. We don't have to have full-blown meetings for that. So I
Hmm.
try to stick to that information gathering, the appointment / demo, and then the rest is just short conversation, short phone calls, short whatever from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you are initially addressing the customer's needs
Mm-hmm.
and saying, this is the problem that I see that you have. How do you go about doing that?
So ultimately, what I like to do is I like to let them identify it first. I prefer to be in a position, because sales is all about positioning. I prefer to be in a position where I don't have to let them know what the problem is. I can extract that out of them and they can tell me what the problem is. And a lot of times you extract the problem and they don't even realize it's a problem. Hey, when somebody submits a form on your website, what happens next? Well, we get a form submission, and I think that comes through in an email, and Rebecca at the front desk usually gets that, and then she'll let me know, and then I'll give them a call. Well, to me, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But to them, it might not be, because that's just how their business has operated for years, right? But to me, I could see a 50% increase in closed deals just off of improving that. And so I'll regurgitate that and say, have you ever thought about the fact that if you don't respond to that form submission within 3 minutes, they're 80% less likely to buy? And they're like, oh shit, Rebecca checks that once a day. And then they're like, oh, that is a problem, right? So I just extracted a piece of information. I know enough about the process and how it should work. So when they tell me how their shit works that they don't know is a problem, boom, I just lay it on them and say, oh yeah, did you know that, like, if you're not doing this, you're
Mm-hmm.
actually losing a bunch of business and you don't even realize it? And then they're like, oh my gosh, how do we fix that? And it's like, well, I have this thing that we just plug in right here and it would work like this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the route that I try to take. In the case where I'm trying to let them know what the problem is, again, I really try and take the innocent approach. That's the example I gave earlier on the cold call is kind of the way that I go about it. Hey, are you guys looking to get more leads and like close more business? Because if you are, I noticed this error. And like that should be fixed if your goal is to get more leads and more business.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what that's doing is it's saying if you're in the mode of growing your business, which again, this is all just based off of stuff that I sell, which typically is like appointments, lead generation, all that. So if you're looking to grow your business and this is wrong, that is an error. And I just try and make that very clear. And it's like, if that's your goal, then this needs to be fixed. And that's all.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I leave it at. And then it's up to them to determine how much of a problem that is to them. If they're like, well, we get enough business and like more is coming in every month, then it is what it is. No big deal, no pressure, whatever. But if they're like, oh shoot, I didn't even realize that, then it's like, boom. All right, conversation's open. You're the type of guy that I want to talk to, and actually spend time on. So that's the avenue that I usually take with that type of stuff. Yeah.
When you mention having the customer say their own process, and you may say, oh, well, it could be improved. One of the best learning experiences that I've had in my life came from a retail job that I worked. And we used to get shipments of merchandise, and then we would sort it out in our back room and then take it to the accordion aisle and stock the shelves.
Yeah.
And that was pretty slow, and we would be backed up sometimes. But then we had a changeover, and somebody said, well, forget sorting out in the back room. Just dump it in the cart and go. Just dump, go. Don't worry about sorting. Let's just do that out there. Right. And that worked way better. I remember coming in and thinking, oh, boy, this looks great. Like, this is fast. And when it was explained to me, that's when it hit me. It's like, okay, this is the same store, same merchandise, same everything, just a different way to do it.
Right.
And so that, like, I'll never forget that. I mean, that happened a couple of years ago, and it's very clear in my mind. So every time I think about anything, I'm thinking, how can I do this same process differently and get a better result? You just have to. Right. I mean, I'm a very stubborn and very regimented individual. And so it's harder for me to think outside of my comfort zone.
Yep.
But it can be advantageous to do it.
Well, it's huge at the end of the day, because that's where a lot of businesses, here's the deal. If you want to make money for the rest of your life, think outside of the box. If
Bingo.
you go to any industry, if you go to roofing, you go to junk removal, you go to plumbing, HVAC, electrician, and these are all home service businesses. These are the types of guys that I help. They don't even have technology in their business. So like the roofing company, I just talked to one last week. He tracks his leads on a notepad. He follows up with them manually every day by phone, which is fine. That part is okay. But the fact that like his phone doesn't give him a notification to make that phone call and it's not reminding him, like that's the area of life that we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to make money for the rest of your life, go into any industry and literally just think outside of the box, because there's so much room for improvement in 90% of these companies, that in 100% of the companies that I approach every day. But like anybody that's not within their first 5 to 6 years of business has no technology at all. And so if you just come in and you start talking about how they can use different tech to improve productivity, I mean, you're invaluable to that business for the rest of existence. Some of the stuff that I'll implement into companies will change the valuation of their company when they go to sell. So if you're talking to the owner of the company and you want to talk about how valuable their business is, and then they have automated follow-ups, email nurturing, all sorts of stuff already implemented that happens automatically every time something takes place. When they go to get their business valuated, that is now taken into consideration in the value of their company. The fact that they have these systems and processes in place and set up. So like when you look at making money and being valuable to somebody, it literally just comes down to like, how do they do things now? And what are the ways that our generation knows how to do it a little bit more efficiently? And then like just getting them to come around to the idea of doing that themselves. And that's where I would prefer to own my own business instead of going and working for one roofing company, because, and this is just a personal example, I worked for my dad for the first 4.5 years of my professional career. Okay. When I started, it was 2013. All right. I was asking for 2 to 3 days a week remote. Okay. Which is fairly normal nowadays. And I just had lists of things that they could have done better, more efficient or whatever. Now, I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Some of it was just ignorant. Like there's no way that they were going to implement some of that stuff. But I used to talk about implementing different technologies and follow-ups and automated responses and, different things like that. And then I used to talk about just workplace and the work environment and like just having different things in the office and like easy one, like a water filter, cleaner water, so that we didn't have to like buy water bottles and all that type of stuff. It was a $200 purchase one time, and I fought hard for that. And I love the fact that I got that put in there. But it's like little things like that, even inside of a technology company. It was something where, they weren't wanting to change. They weren't willing to change. Now, 2019 comes around. The company goes fully remote. Okay, this is after I'm gone. Two years after I'm gone. Company goes fully remote. My dad sells his office. Guys were never coming back to the office again. And 5 years prior, I had been fighting, hey, like, let me work 2 days remote. Like, this is a thing. Like, we have our laptops. I can remote into everything. Like, it's fine if I work from home. And it was just unacceptable, not something that we do. Like, that's not the way our business operates. And then a couple years later, when you're forced into the situation, like people are talking about the whole artificial intelligence craze. artificial intelligence is going to be a thing just like COVID, where, oops, now you have to operate this way. You have to use artificial intelligence, otherwise you're a business of the past. You have to figure out how to use Chat GPT or whatever the thing is. So like some of these things are just inevitable. They're going to happen in the next 5 years anyways. And it's the one that can see, hey, I want to work 2 to 3 days a week right now. It is possible. We know how to do it. We can do it. That is going to start pushing for those things. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like, again, when you're looking at a business, he had an expense every single month. He had cars for his employees. Those cars had gas. Those cars had insurance. The office space had a lease. The office space had utilities. The office space had all these issues that would come up within the office space that needed to get fixed or repaired or whatever, or redone entirely, like different area sections of the office. So it's like you look at all the expenses on the profit loss statement every single month. And then you say, wow, if we had been 4 days a week remote, 5 days a week remote for the past 5 years, we could have saved or made this much more money. Now it's like, oh my gosh, that actually is 10 times more valuable than I was thinking it was at the time because I wasn't taking into consideration the trade-off. So it's very interesting how like literally just like the concept of remote work could have been more valuable, but it wasn't perceived as that because of how business had been done historically. You know, so yeah, it's super interesting. But yeah, anything like that, you could literally, that was a technology company. Like you could go into any business and just start thinking, oh, you guys do shit this way, you should try this out. And then if it works, then boom, like that's something that you did for them that's invaluable. So yeah.
So talking about the different ways, like what AI tools and what technology tools do you use?
So I a lot of the tools that I use aren't actually artificial intelligence. They just like a part of the tool uses artificial intelligence. So the software that I sell to businesses is called Go High Level. And it's basically an all-in-one marketing and sales communication software. And then it has aspects of it that involve automation, which feels like artificial intelligence. And then it does have aspects of it that integrate with ChatGPT and different artificial intelligence platforms. When I'm doing paid advertising, there's a whole software that I use that gives me a grading system for my advertisements. And based on one click of a button, it would update what the targeting is or the budget or the bidding on a certain audience or different things like that. So that's crazy artificial intelligence. I do use ChatGPT and Jasper quite a bit for copywriting right now. And just for, I saw a clip from Gary Vee about this the other day. He said, people are using artificial intelligence to do their job. People aren't using artificial intelligence to help them think better. And so what I've been doing a lot more recently is I've been learning how to do email marketing from ChatGPT. I'm asking it best practices. I'm asking it for ideas on strategy. I'm asking it to do the thinking for me so that I can focus more on the execution and getting the job done, right? So I'm taking the heavy lifting out of my job entirely and saying, what should I do? And then from there, we go and do it, and then we test it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, great. And we iterate and test. And then as far as like actual AI tools, I'm really struggling to come up with one by name because I don't think that I act like other than a Chat GPT or a Jasper. And I wouldn't even say that Jasper's artificial intelligence. It's just like, I mean, it is technically, but it doesn't really feel like it. I use a email software that pulls email addresses called Apollo.io.
Okay.
So, there's a technology stack, but not all of them are artificial intelligence based, if that makes sense. There are aspects of them that feel like it, but that's just because people don't understand what artificial intelligence actually is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I want to thank you for coming on.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man. This is good to be back.
You have a wealth of knowledge, and I so enjoy your eagerness to share your experiences and just help the young people, which is what I'm trying to do.
Thank you. And yes, that's exactly what the goal is. And we kept it to that 8 to 10 minutes that you asked for. So this was great.
We did. Exactly.
Love it. All right, dude. Have an awesome night. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. See ya.